Hey everyone, this is breaking news brief for October 24th, 2023. It's currently 10:15 p.m. Central Standard Time. Starting off with Israel. Israel has been shelling Hezbollah positions along the border with Lebanon, as well as Iranian-backed militias in Syria. Fighting also continues to escalate in the Golan Heights and Gaza Strip, with IDF personnel reporting Israeli casualties. The world is still waiting for the ground invasion of Gaza. It has been stated that Israel is waiting on hostage negotiations to play out, but Israel is also reportedly growing tired of the wait. United States Air Force Lieutenant General Glenn is in Israel, helping with the planning of the ground invasion. U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Pat Ryder stated that General Glenn was only there to answer questions the Israelis might have about urban warfare, attempting to keep the Israelis from making the same mistakes the U.S. had made in past conflicts. He also stated that the IDF was making all decisions and that General Glenn was only there to answer questions and aid the IDF in any way he could. He also stated the IDF was doing everything it could to prevent the conflict from expanding. Next, we'll be talking about Ukraine. So a few days ago, Russian forces attempted a large offensive near the town of Avdiivka in the Donetsk Oblast, which is what you're currently looking at. They had made some small gains until the Ukrainian armed forces responded, halting the Russian advance. The fighting has been fierce, both sides taking massive casualties. On October 20th, Russia received its worst day of losses of the entire war, losing 1,380 personnel, 55 tanks, and 120 APCs. It was also reported this week that Putin was found on the floor of his apartment and had suffered from a cardiac arrest, which brings into question his longevity and fears of a power vacuum if he was to die, bringing further questions about nuclear war in that event. Next is a short news segment from Australia. It was reported originally by Reuters today that Australia had sent 2 more military aircraft and a significant number of defense personnel to the Middle East. Australia sends aircraft and troops to the Middle East in case things get worse. Contingency force on standby if Australians in the region need to be flown to safety. The Australian government is sending a significant contingent of aircraft and supporting troops to the Middle East on standby in the event this gets worse, as the death toll from Israel airstrikes passes 5,700. So I thought that was interesting and that y'all needed to hear it. Next, we're going to talk about China. So just a few days ago, a Chinese Coast Guard ship and an unaccompanied vessel rammed a Philippine Coast Guard ship and a military supply ship that was en route to a Filipino military outpost on a disputed island. China has often used tactics like these to attempt to bully other nations away from the disputed islands. This kind of behavior only raises tensions in the region. U.S. officials confirmed their support in the event the Philippines are attacked, declaring the U.S. would defend the nation. The Pentagon stated that they were in contact with their Chinese counterparts to try to keep these things from escalating. So this is USNI. China Coast Guard vessel collides with Filipino supply ship in the South China Sea. They do this a lot on all the disputed islands in the South China Sea. It's an intimidation tactic. You know, the 9-dash line, they claim all the islands basically in the South China Sea. Lastly, we're going to talk about some U.S. news. The U.S. Congress is still speakerless, making this vital branch of the government basically shut down. Without a speaker, they cannot vote on new bills or pass new laws. With the world on the brink of World War III and a government shutdown only a couple weeks away, it casts a gloomy shadow. Moving on to the Pentagon brief, with U.S. Air Force Brigadier General Pat Ryder briefing the press, stated the Pentagon's first concern was force protection. The Defense Department would take all necessary measures to defend personnel and assets overseas. The attacks on U.S. bases in Iraq and Syria were going to escalate. During this press briefing, he was asked if he could comment on any U.S. casualties caused by the attacks. He told the reporter no at the time. Just hours later, NBC reported 24 American military personnel were wounded in a series of drone attacks on American bases in Iraq and Syria just days ago. The Pentagon had confirmed the attacks but not the casualties. During the briefing, the general also stated that U.S. bases had been attacked 10 times. The attackers are known to be groups backed by Iran. Iranian proxies are expected to step up their attacks on U.S. forces in the region. Concerning the missiles that the USS Carney had shot down last week, the general stated the missiles fired by the Houthi rebels had a range of over 2,000 kilometers, which puts them in range of Israel. The U.S. has also continued to provide aid and munitions to Israel, including missiles for the Iron Dome, 155 shells, and other ordnance. Meanwhile, the U.S. is also providing aid to the Palestinians, which has drawn questions of why we are supporting both sides. The Pentagon stated during the press brief that it was important to remember that not all Palestinians were Hamas, and not all Hamas were Palestinians. Another deployment of F-16s was also announced, thereof the New Jersey Air National Guard being sent to the region. So what do you guys think of all this news? 2 dozen casualties in the Middle East, and it's basically Iran that's behind them. They're the ones funding these groups. They're probably also giving them intel and equipment. Do you think the U.S. should do something about it? Do you think we should start, taking reprisals against Iran? Let me know in the comments what you think. Like and subscribe. I need to know y'all like these, so I'll keep doing them if you do, or I'll drop them if you don't. Thanks for watching.